Friends, welcome back. I wanted to take some time to check in on reading. Not really doing much of that. Started a booktube channel and now I can't read. Anyway, I tried to do a January wrap up for you all. And I honestly didn't remember that much about the books I read in January. I think there were a couple factors in that. One is I read 12 books. And that I probably rushed through several. And it did tend to be the books closer to the beginning of the month that I did not remember as well. So what I thought I would do is kind of break it up and do a mid-month reading check-in with you all, let you know what I've read so far, what I'm currently reading, what I'm looking forward to reading, any book recommendations, any that I have for you, or that book recommendations that maybe I want to ask from you to share with me. That's the plan moving forward. However, the one issue is that I'm not reading a lot right now, and it is February 16th, and I have still finished one book this month, and I will talk to you about that book. I have abandoned my TBR that I picked out from the TBR jar. I'm still working on things. I DNF'd a few things. The other thing is that I have mentioned before that I have a chronic illness, and fatigue is one of the biggest symptoms that I have, and it's been getting me. I would say I've been in a flare this month, but I've honestly been in a flare for a while of chronic fatigue. So while I'm interested in reading, I haven't read a lot. So I don't know if I consider this a reading slump. It sort of is, it sort of isn't. I do hope to get a lot more reading done this weekend. So what I thought I would do is walk you through some of the books the book I've read so far. And that is The Interesting Facts About Space by Emily Austen. This came out at the end of January, and it was very interesting. It's really a look at the main character's mental health, I would say. We have a girl named Enid who is, I want to say, late 20s, early 30s. And she has a mother that was a great mother, and then she was a great mother when her mother wasn't dealing with her own mental health issues. And Enid talks about her coping mechanisms for when her mother was dealing with depression. And that I found very, very interesting. She also talks about having an absent father who basically left Enid and her mom and went and started another family with another woman. And also Enid's relationship that she is trying to form with her half-sisters. I really enjoyed that exploration as well. How Enid wanted to fit in and wanted them to like her, and she was doing that sort of by trying to not be herself. And I enjoyed sort of that, the look at that storyline. I would say this definitely has, Enid is quirky, absolutely. She also explores just some of the mental health things that came up for her as a teenager who's, you know, without a father, who she kind of put her, any mental health concerns she had, to the side because she knew she didn't want to make her mother sad because her mother was already sad. And I think it's very I'm trying to not use the word interesting. It does a good look at that, and a look at how mental health conditions in a parent can impact a child. So I would definitely recommend this. I also liked the relationship with Enid and her coworker. I think his name is Vic. Because a lot of this, Enid's dating life, that she tries to keep people away and not to get close to them, and ends up where, you know, she does have this close relationship with her coworker. So, yeah, I enjoyed it. It's, like I said, quirky, and the end kind of, something is revealed at the end that just kind of went a little, I don't know, off the rails a little bit for me. Like, it wasn't necessary to be a good book to have this this thing revealed as part of the story. So I think that was one of my takeaways from that. I don't remember, you know, I give star ratings on Goodreads because I do have a lot of friends that use Goodreads. I'm starting to use Storygraph as well. I'll link both below. I find it really hard to rate books. And so I rate books based on the experience that I had while reading it. And I think I gave this either a 3 or 4 star, sort of more in the middle, but I definitely will be holding on to this probably. I really like the writing style, and there's definitely some really good passages in here that I will look back at. While I was reading this, it reminded me of a book that I've read recently. So if you liked this book, you may also like this one, Death of a Bookseller by Alice Slater. And this one is the main character, her name is Roach. She would rather be listening to the latest episode of her favorite true crime podcast than assisting the boring and predictable customers to her local branch of the bookstore, Spines, where she's worked for her entire life. Roach is a true crime junkie, and she is basically obsessed with serial killers, and she knows a lot about them. And she also becomes obsessed with a new bookseller at the store where she works, to the point of extreme stalking, I would say. But this to me, as I was reading the interesting facts about space, as I was reading this, made me think of Death of a Bookseller. So if you liked one, try the other. You might like that. I am still reading Girl with a Louding Voice by Abby Dare. I am, let's see, chapter 35 on 228, and it is a, let's see, how many pages? 366. So I'm almost there. And I'll talk more about this in another video when I finish it. I really do like to wait to finish it, but I am enjoying is a weird word to put to this. It's deep. It's talking about things that no 14-year-old girl should have to go through, and it's also fairly present day. I want to say 2010, 2012. So not that long ago, but it's reflecting situations for women in present day Nigeria. And it's also giving some facts. Kind of the entrance, or the start of the chapters has some facts as well about Nigeria. So I am enjoying that one. Like I said, enjoying is a word that it's hard to put to that book, but you know, it's a good book. It's a good book. So another book I'm reading right now is Poor Little Sick Girls by Ione Gamble. This is the subtitle is A Love Letter to Unacceptable Women. And it's really talking about the author's life with chronic illness, and also at different women's issues. And I just read a chapter on feminism, kind of the different waves of feminism. And I can relate a lot to this book as someone with a chronic illness. And so I thought what I would do, this one I hope to have done by the end of the month. These books that talk about chronic illness, I take my time with them, and it takes me a little bit longer to get through. But what I thought I would do is share with you some of my favorite books about chronic illness that I've read, and chronic illness or disability, and disability. Chronic illnesses are disability. So the first one I just finished in January. It's called Disfigured. It's by Amanda Leduc, and its subtitle is On Fairy Tales, Disability, and Making Space. This is a look at fairy tales and the representation of disability in the fairy tales. It's essay form and talks about, kind of takes different fairy tales. Like chapter 5 is the little Dumb Foundling, Hans Christian Andersen's Ugly Little Ducklings. So it takes some of the fairy tales that we, I know in the US, have definitely heard of when we were kids, and looks at the representation of disability. And if you think about the villains in the fairy tales, or the thing that, whatever the thing was that someone was dealing with in a fairy tale, it tended to be some kind of disability or disfigurement that needed to be cured or fixed in order for them to be acceptable, to live a happy life, and or that they needed to be saved from something by, you know, a knight in shining armor who does not have a disability, or you know, she takes a deep dive into those, and I think it's a great book to look at, to read if you want to know more about disability representation in literature, the fairy tale specifically. And I know I will go back to this. I work in disability services, and like I said, I'm a person with a disability, and I think it's a great, it's small, it's a small book, but it's definitely packs a punch. Another one I've recommended to so many people, and it's been a long time since I've read this, and I kind of we'll probably do a reread. And this is Pain Woman Takes Your Keys and Other Essays from a Nervous System by Sonya Huber. And this is a look at life with a chronic illness that involves chronic pain, and just how it affects different aspects of life, work, parenthood, being a parent. And I think if you want to know more about kind of the daily struggles of what it's like to maintain a job, try and maintain a job when you wake up in the morning and you don't know if you're going to have a lot of pain, a little pain, a lot of fatigue, not a lot of fatigue. And when we say fatigue, we're not saying, oh, I didn't get enough sleep, or I stayed up too late kind of fatigue. It's similar to when you get the flu or something that you feel like you've been hit by a truck or run over by a truck. That aching, pure exhaustion that it's really challenging to hold your body up kind of fatigue. And I really appreciated the author's insight. I read this, I want to say 2 years ago. It came out in 2017, 2 or 3 years ago, maybe more than that, when I read this, and I really felt seen. So if you're someone who has a chronic pain condition, I highly recommend this book. Another book that I recommend for everybody to read is Disability Visibility, First-Person Stories from the 21st Century. It's an anthology by disabled authors, and it's edited by Alice Wong. This is a great kind of primer for learning more about disability as a whole, and what people with disabilities deal with on a daily basis, just to do the the things that we all are expected to do and society tells us are necessary to do every day, such as get up, take a shower, eat breakfast, getting dressed, going to work. I think one of the chapters in here that I think now I'm questioning myself whether it's in this book or not. About just the transportation issues, that if you can't drive, or how getting to work, when you get to work, getting the accommodations you might need. If someone has low vision and they're doing a computer job, they may need assistive technology to be able to read the screen and do their job. However, in some workplaces, it can take, an act from Congress or God or whatever you want to say, but it's a major feat to get those accommodations, even though they're legally required. So it's not specific to any disability. I don't know what you want to call it, category, any specific disability. It touches on a lot of things. And in a lot of this, the disability of the person writing it isn't important. That's not the purpose. That's not the point of it. It's seeing the obstacles that get in the way of just living basic human lives. And yeah, I could talk about this all day. Highly recommend it. I'm gonna try and do a reread of this year. It's been a minute since I've read it, and I might even try the audio this time. So this was my favorite poetry collection that I read last year. I don't read a ton of poetry, but I will try, if I read a poet that in an anthology, or some books, fiction books, nonfiction books, they'll have a poem in the beginning, and sometimes it piques my interest, and I'll look up the poet that way. But this is by Jen Campbell, BookTube's own Jen Campbell. Please do not touch this exhibit. And I ordered this, read this, because Jen has an awesome YouTube channel. She gives a lot of herself to the BookTube community. She's an author, and I really love her writing as well. And this poetry collection is beautiful and frustrating. You just want to shake some of the doctors that she talks about in here. It is about Jen's life, her early childhood, with her disability, having a lot of surgeries. She requested her medical records and read through them, which I can't even imagine what that was like. She puts quotes in here from her medical charts, and it is just, it's a lot. I think my favorite in here is "The Hospital Is Not My House." Jen has talked about on her channel that she's gone through a lot of surgeries since she was a baby, And she also talks about her experience of going through IVF. And yeah, even if you don't usually read poetry, I think this is very accessible, and worth a read. And yeah, again, I could talk about this forever too. Another book that I think is really an important read for anyone, honestly, anyone who went through the pandemic, which is all of us, right? And this is The Long Haul, Solving the Puzzle of the Pandemic's Long Haulers and How They Are Changing Healthcare Forever by Ryan Pryor. This is a nonfiction look at our reaction to COVID and the effect it had on people who already had chronic illnesses and then got COVID, people who got COVID and never got better or still dealing with the effects of it. And it's from a journalist's perspective, but also someone who had a condition, actually a condition that I have that is very similar to long COVID. And in the research right now, researchers are starting to make more connections to the two and actually talking about the connection between the two. It's really well done. And I've listened to Ryan talk on a podcast and just where he's coming from. He talks about his health issues when he was younger and sort of his recovery from that, and also, how he responded as someone who had a chronic illness to the COVID pandemic. So really recommend this as well. Ryan is based in the US, so this does focus a lot on the US response. And the last one I wanted to talk about is, I believe just came out in paperback, maybe. I've been seeing a different cover around social media. Maybe it just came out in the US. I actually ordered this from the UK because it wasn't coming out in the US quick enough for me. And I also love this cover. It's beautiful. This is Some of Us Just Fall on Nature and Not Getting Better by Polly Atkin. Polly is, she's a nature writer, and she's written some, she wrote a book called Recovering Dorothy, is the first biography to focus on Dorothy Wordsworth's later life and illness. So I haven't read that yet, but it's definitely on my want to read. This is about Polly's own chronic illness, and talking about nature as well. It really felt like I was walking in the middle of, you know, an English countryside talking to Polly about her experience as a chronically ill woman. And I think a lot of people would enjoy this if you enjoy nature and you enjoy really getting into deep descriptions of nature and the climate around you. She also works to bring to light some of and connect some of the things that women of the past have also dealt with, and women who we now suspect had chronic illnesses, but at the time were not taken seriously. I say that, but also recognize that even today, women are not taken seriously when they go to see doctors. And they're, so Polly talks about that struggle as well. I color-coded my tabs to the book cover because that's how much I love this book cover. I made lots of notes in here. This is just an example. Illness makes storytellers of us all, but patients know that our version of the story is mistrusted instinctively and as a matter of course. We go to the doctor, to the emergency department, to a consultant, to a physiotherapist. The first thing we are asked is why we are there. We are made to explain ourselves, to justify our presence, even if the reason we are there makes it impossible to do so clearly. We are made to explain ourselves over and over again, as though each separate account will be checked against the others for inconsistencies. We are unreliable witnesses to our own bodily histories. We misinterpret, we falsify, our testimonies cannot be trusted. And that is, again, as I was saying about Pain Woman, definitely I feel seen in that paragraph and throughout the book. So I think if you like illness memoirs, if you like and can relate to that, I would say it's a little bit, not as much as I've read in some others, but it's a little bit more on it reads like an academic book, but like I said, just slightly. If we're comparing it to the fantasy world, this would be light fantasy. This is light academic, light. So don't let that hold you back from it. And it's definitely something that you can take a chapter at a time. I did. It took me a good bit to get through this as well. So again, highly recommend that. So yeah, that's my recommendations on disability and chronic illness. And if you have any other recommendations, please drop them in the comments. I really thank you for being here. If you could like and subscribe, that would really help my channel. And I hope to see you again soon. Bye.